Hey, my name is PolishLynx and welcome to irae. Middle of the night? Well, it's not even 1 AM yet, but yeah, middle of the night. And, well, I finally have more days off work, so I'll be recording more or less, but at night. For the beginning of my days off, not really that great, because, well, kids don't listen. PolishLynx is a bit drunk. For not much, because I'm still able to be here and record and so on. Well, I guess having good head is good for me, at least. Well, anyway. Well, that's what happens, family gathering. And, well, being Polish means there's always alcohol on the table. Anyway, let's get with irae. Now kids can listen. For maybe not. Because, well, you never know what happens in this game. There might be some gore and so on. Anyway. Backed by a highly oppressive BGM, Casper began to lecture me and we could not skip that. She forced me to sit on my knees. Mari copied me, while Sakura looked away, acting like she had nothing to do with any of this. She went just to behind Kasumi, writing on some sort of paper with markers. That was a good scene.
で、あんた一体何やってるのよ。なんでこんなところにマリーちゃんや桜井さんと一緒にいるの？
なんで言われても。
Sakura looked brisk even when I turned to her. It was probably useless to expect anything out of Mari. But while I was deep in thought.
レンが 3P しようとしたんだけど、ホテル代がないからって、ここに連れてこられたの。
She's the best. Seriously. After Honjo, well, she's great.
は
ぁ？マリー、後ろの奴らのカンペは見るな。
How about you join us too? I could dig that. Honjo's card. But I guess you feel the room with the stink of the candy equipment. Yeah, forget I said anything. Shiro's card. But doesn't Eric have stench fetish? Honjo's card. True, Fuji does have perverted side to him. Shiro's card. He was totally male the last time we did it. Even bit my arm. Honjo's card. Remember Cole, that made me kind of restless now. What do you say if we took some time together in private? Shiro's card. What? But they don't think that way. Wait, stop! Not in front of Ren! Honjo's card.
お前ら帰れ。
But we live here. Shiro's card. FYI, you're only freeloading at my place. Honjo's card.
って、何をふざけてるかそこ
！No, not the big sir lady again. Honjo's card. You scare me when you're angry, mommy. Shiro's card.
口で喋らんか、口で
No, calm down, Kasumi. I thought doing something about Sakurai over there would be of a higher priority before she killed someone.
だいたいしろ。あんたいなくなったと思ったらこんなところで遊んでるし、何がどうなってるのか私ちっともさっぱりわかんない。まさかあんたら私に内緒でずっと連絡取り合ってたんじゃないでしょうね。
いや、それはない。
レンと会ったのは一昨日の話だ。
本当に？
本当に。
Perfect synchronization.
私の目を見て。
こうか？
近い！夜のバカ！タバコ臭い！
It was hard to express in words, but I felt myself only soothed by the nostalgic scene before me, with Kasumi in a fit and Shiro smirking at her. Well, not really, but it was an odd feeling, nonetheless.
大体この子誰？
Kasumi panted as she pointed to Honjo. Perhaps she was tired of yelling so much.
学校に行こうとして部屋から出たらいきなり目の前にいて、なんかハンカチみたいなの鼻と口に当ててきたと思ったら、私はスーッと。
So Honjo just carried her over here after knocking her out, huh?
お前漫画の人さらいかよ。
だってめんどくさかったんだもん。クロロホルムは発がん性があるんだけど。
ま、 こいつなら死にゃしねえだろ。
クロロ。とにかく
Kasumi pounded the sofa violently, gathering everyone's attention. She'd been in a huge outburst for a while.
あなた
Nothing
は
new.
一体誰ですか？うちのバカ男どもとどんな関係なんですか？
うちのってお前。
俺らはお前の息子かよ。
うっさい！あんたら黙ってろ、ダメズコンビ。それで、うおーい！こっち向け！何？私？
Honjo had been fiddling with her phone, apparently not listening to a word Kasumi said. Not bothering to stop, she spoke up in a bold voice.
そんな誰とか言われてもね。強いて言うなら、セックスフレンドとしか？セックス？フレンド？あれ、違ったっけ？
Of course not. The fuck was this bitch going on about? I don't know what her relationship was with Shiro, but with the way the conversation had been going so far, it made it sound like I was part of it too, and that pissed me off. That wouldn't piss me off at all.
そうなの？
And what did I do to earn the disgusted look from her? And there she is stuck. Kasumi's mouth lamped like a goldfish as she stood there, still as a statue.
衝撃的事実だな。おい。
まあ、あんたのが使い物になったら、そうなるんじゃないかなっていう話をね。家庭だけどね、してみようかと。
は？
There's no root for her, damn it! My consciousness was about to trail off toward analyzing their inexplicable condition when I suddenly realized there was something very important I forgot to add to the equation. That thing, that pitfall, was gaping jaws around my feet this very moment. I had a terrible feeling about this. The thing that Honjo just casually launched not only caused one terrible misunderstanding, it triggered another bump. An electric chair, if you will, well behind the second layer of our situation. I'd forgotten all about it, but now it came back to bite me. Oh shit. Yep, there it was.
あんた、桜井さんと付き合ってるんじゃなかったの？ありゃや。どこまで藤つかませば気が済むのよ、この最低最悪のろくでなしが。
I wrestled with a sudden impulse to tear all of my hair out.
付き合う？私が、藤井君と？違うの？違うっていうか、これは。
別に違うってことはねえんじゃねえの？
ある意味一足飛びで付き合ったのは事実みたいだし。
Would these two shut up for a minute already?
先生、レン君がまた物に動じてないって顔でぐるぐる言い訳考えてます。
それに比べて桜井ちゃんはまだわかりやすいね。私の何がわかりやすいって言うのよ。顔赤いよ。よし、わかった。
Kasumi suddenly sat cross-legged and slapped her knees as if she was enjoying something. What Yakuza film was she trying to imitate there?
で、あんたあれ言いなさい。
え？
あれ？
わかってるでしょ？あれよあれよ。前に一回この話題であんたが煙に巻いたやつ。
The last time we talked about this, wait. Sure, she didn't mean.
好きって言え。今すぐここで。
I knew it.
全世界に向けて愛を。
ラブを。
リビドーを。
連携すんなお前ら。
じゃあ私は何を？
Wait, there was no need for me to force herself into this.
言えるかバカ。
ちょっとどうなの奥さんこの人。
諦めの悪い男ってやね。
お前らな。
I really had it with them. Besides, Honjo had been constantly playing with her phone while causing those disruptions. What the hell was she doing? Stirring up things in her spare time if she wasn't even all that into it to begin with. But then, just as I was seriously considering protesting,
よし、治った。
Her finger stopped and the LCD TV in the room turned on. Not only that, all sorts of electric gadgets seemed to have suddenly come back to life too. So that was what she'd been doing over there.
お前、それで直してたのか？
うん。まあ、手作業が必要なとこ以外はね。ここからパソコンに情報を飛ばして、セキュリティとか予備電源とか、そういうのを間接的に。面倒な作業だし、直にマシンいじった方が早いっちゃ早いんだけど、ここにいた方が面白いもん拝めるかなと思ったし。
Alright, Honjo. I'm pouring my energy drink into the glass now. Totally a good idea to drink that after the family meet gathering and alcohol.
何？私のテクにときめいた？
Yes.
アホかお前は。
Despite how answered in truth, I was quite impressed. I knew phones were getting more and more convenient these days, but I never imagined you could even do these kind of things with them. Or maybe she modified hers or something. I won't put it past her. Unfortunately.
で、あんた何人事みたいな顔でよそ向いてるのよ。
Oh, you were there. That wouldn't save me from this situation, I guess. What the hell was I supposed to do? Like, seriously. I guess it was my own fault for lying at every step. But the ground zero start of all this, not to mention Sakura had been completely silenced in Kasumi's revelation, and it was giving me the creeps. She was likely left speechless by the sheer stupidity of it all, but didn't mean she'd cooperate with me in calming Kasumi down. But as I was thinking of snatching the chloroform and putting Kasumi back to sleep to have some peace and quiet for change, Sakura's expression turned ominously stern all of a sudden. And it wasn't just her. Shiro and Honjo too. Confused, I followed her gazes and...
昨夜遅く、諏訪原市の一帯が原因不明の火災により炎上。
ちょっと、おい待て。
I tapped my ears for a second. A fire? Late last night? In this city?
炎症は同市の行楽地である湾岸のテーマパークと、それに隣接するホテルおよびショッピングモール一帯を覆い尽くし、今なお消火活動が継続されている状況ですが、火勢は一向に衰えを見せず、これによる被害はまだ正確に出ていませんが、人命的にも金額的にも未曾有の大惨事となろうことはもはや疑いようもなく。
そんな。
そんなにバカな。
遊園地が吹っ飛んだ？
We know what that means, right?
ありえねえだろ、さすがに。
Yep. Putting aside Kasumi, even Shiro and Honjo seemed to be in complete shock. Me too, of course. There was no way a fire could destroy the whole amusement park in one night. You sure? I think it would be possible. And I wasn't aware of any nuclear power plants or oil tanks in the area to make it spread like that. And yet, as if making fun of our astonishment, pillars of flame were devouring the amusement park on the TV screen. The roller coaster and the Ferris wheel melted into a ghoulish mass of steel bars, as the huge structures of the surrounding hotels crumbled. One after another. That's right, one after another.
信じられねえ。
Well, what I can't believe I freaking messed up my sound again, but it's working again. What on earth could have happened to cause that level of destruction? These things started to look more like an inferno and less like the average fire. It made me think of a scene from a war movie, like an air raid or something. Did someone drop a bomb on our amusement park?
まさか。
Sakura grew incredibly pale, shivering from terror as she embraced her own shoulders. This must have been the handiwork of those bastards, no doubt about it. One of them was capable of causing destruction of this caliber, or had someone returned to their ranks. Was that why Sakura turned white as chalk? Had one of the monsters that, according to Spinne, should never be allowed to graze this earth ever again actually turned? I caught Sakura in my arms. It seemed like she fainted.
シロ。
ああ、こりゃじゃれてる場合じゃねえな。
Despite that, he still made a festive smile, placing one hand on Kasumi's shoulders.
とりあえず お前今日は学校休みな。外がこんな騒ぎになってちゃ授業どころじゃねえだろ。
でも
No buts.
お前の疑問にはそのうちレンが答えるだろうよ。今は聞き分けよくしとけ。よーし、じゃあどうすっかな、エリー。
まずは朝飯。腹が減ってはってよく言うし。
だな。じゃあかすみ、お前あいつと一緒に俺らの飯作ってくれよ。
ちょっとそんないきなり言われても。
悪い。頼むよ。
Katsumi made a discontent face, what?
わかった、わかりましたよ。ともかくご飯作るから、いろいろ話はその後で。じゃあくすみちゃん、こちらへどうぞ。っていうか、なんであなたが私の名前を。エリーよ、エリー。よろしくね。まあ、よろしく。
That was easy. I don't know if you should call her feeble-minded or just good-natured, probably both, but she, despite voicing a few complaints, obligingly followed Honjo out of the room. Ellie. In any case, I had better think about what to do next.
なんつうか、意外に神経の細いやつだよな。その姉ちゃんも。
まあ、そうだな。
I considered Sakurai laying in my arms. The amusement park was probably one of the swastika locations. Sister Elisa let us know that the club was the third, so that one must have been the fourth. In other words, that would make half of them already open. Where could the others be? I had a vague guess about one, but I had no idea about the other three. Which meant I'd need to pry that info out of Sakurai. My stern expression must have made her worried, thanks her glancing in my direction all misty-eyed. As if she was troubled, scared, or glad?
カリオストロが笑ってる。怖い人が来たって。もう止まらないって笑ってる。ねえレン、私はどうしたらいいのかな。
I have no answer to give her. I couldn't tell what fate had in store for us, what perils we would have to face together. Had I just been naive or a fool? Was my resolved cheap bravado of a brat still wet behind the ears? Rarely face off against beasts tempered in the fires of war. Still troubling Sakurai, all I could do was try and stave off this ill premonition casting its shadow on my heart. In the end, we had to wait almost till midnight for Sakurai to wake up and explain everything to us.
じゃあ本当に二人は付き合ってると思っていいんだよね。
Oh my god, there you go again about that. You know, there are more serious matters around.
ああ、
まあ。
No, it doesn't matter now, but we went on with the act, knowing it would be the only way to get Kasumi off our backs.
絶対嘘じゃないよね。これで騙したら、私もう本当怒るよ。
I suddenly raised my hands to proclaim my innocence.
桜井さんは？おおむね。
I don't know what made her have a change of heart while she was asleep, but she ultimately decided to cooperate. I tried not to think about what other misfortune this act might cause for me in the future. Incidentally, Shiro and Honjo were there. They said they were going to buy dinner, but that was probably a lie. Most of the guys here were killed during last night's incident, so they probably had to go gather weapons and information by themselves now. I thought about trying to talk them out of it again, but with people on their side that it was really unlikely they'd have listened to me. Anyway, I wished I could stop them, but I just didn't know how I could do that right now. So for starters, I decided to take care of the situation first. Marie was already asleep, so as long as we could get Kasumi to calm down, I could rest easy. Or so I hoped.
おおむねってどういうこと？
Basically means basically, damn it. How much more persistent could she get? How long was she plying conversation with this one thing anyway? It wasn't her business what Sakurai and I were doing in private.
何よ、そのすっごい嫌そうな顔。
I'd just say that you poured the blood out of each other and truly understand. in the correct, well, the way she would understand that.
だってな。
Fed up with the whole thing, I decided to speak up.
さっきからお前、どれだけこの話題で言ってんだよ。こんないかにもつまんねえこと。
つまんない
To her?
あ、悪い。失言。
Well, I could understand her logic the next time, with all of us telling her lies. If she could only find one flaw in our reasoning, she could start adopting the entire premise of one thing. For she's not that bright, right? From Kasumi's point of view, Sakura is probably the one least likely to be lying. I knew that, I did, but...
お前、しばらく学校休むってことにはちゃんと納得してるんだろうな。
まあね。
She barely even commented on that, but when it came to me and Sakurai, she immediately began raising hell.
っていうか、さっき友達からメールがあったし、さすがにあんなことが起きたから、学校お休みになるってさ。
I know who's doing that was. Right, the fire amusement park. There was nothing that could have caused explosions or huge fires in that area. Being as it was, even people on TV began suggesting that it might have been an act of terrorism. First a serial murder, then terrorist attack. Even our laid-back school had to close with all that stuff going down in such a short period of time. It wasn't something to rejoice over, but it certainly saved me some trouble now.
なので、しばらく暇になるし、いい機会だから、今までうやむやにされてたあれやこれやを、まとめてはっきりさせようと私は思うの。
I'm sorry, but you call that nonsense. This is a serious relationship between Ren and Sakurai. Totally. Now if only she would get off my back. There were roughly 3 points that Kasumi had a problem with. First, why was I with Shiro? Had I really not heard from him until just the other day? Second, why were Sakurai and Mari with me? And third was, I really dating Sakurai? Each of those were so ridiculous they made my head hurt. There's other reason why my head hurts a bit, but whatever. The first one wasn't much of a problem since all I had to do was basically tell the truth and say Hondro had somewhat forced me to come here. As for the second, I managed to get by that one by saying that Mari had fallen asleep and had just come along with me of her own volition. But the third one had been proving quite formidable. Well, to be fair, if I were in her shoes, I'd find the whole thing so fishy that even I'd call bullshit on it, but still. Anyway, I couldn't keep Sakurai going along with this forebear, so I had to get this idiot to understand that I go to sleep already. I had things I needed to do too.
どうすりゃ納得するんだよ。
だから、さっきから言ってるじゃないの。分かってるくせにしらばっくれるなんて男らしくない。
Okay, just as I said in the first playthrough, walkthrough, I don't need to prove anything to you.
桜井さんだって聞きたいでしょ。
Okay, once again, you don't need because it's not for you.
え？ああ、それはまあ。ということだから。で、ここはがっつり男を見せて。
Again, I have nothing to prove to you.
お前は珍しく俺をいたぶれるのが楽しいだけだろ。
そんなことないですよ。
She's so full of shit.
さあ、それじゃあ行ってみよう。藤井蓮が今一番好きな女の子の名前は？ダラダラダラダラダラダラダラダラダラダラダラダラダラダラダラ。じゃじゃーん。
Wait, that was terrible sound. I really felt like punching her. Sakurai. You. Himura. Wait! What? I can go that way! Or that way! Oh. Save the game. Okay, save the game. Where is he saved? Alright, it was here. Over, right? Yes, thank you. Oh, dude. Oh, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, what do we do now? Because I didn't know about that option over here. So, you know, previously there wasn't such thing. And right now we can choose. You know, I know what route we are on, kind of, but is it possible that we have, you know, like a secret possibility in this game actually to, you know, romance someone else after all? Because if that was the possibility, then I wouldn't mind. I mean, I would say you know, Ellie. Seriously, Ellie. I would even say Rosalka. Even though she was, well, crazy and opponent, but kinda interesting. I would love to say Mari. And yeah, alright, let's get serious, right? Boom, Sakurai.
Sakurai.
Did I even have another choice?
そんな嫌そうな顔でそっぽ向きながら言われても。ねえ、こんなんじゃ気分悪いでしょ、桜井さんも。
Oh, no, I just want to check. If everything is fine with my recording, don't bother with me, game.
いや、私は別にそういうのはどうだって。
In your face.
本当に？
In your face, Kasumi.
本人がいいって言ってんだからいいだろ
だってさ、これじゃ私なんか納得できないし。
Well, how would you know? It's not like you have anyone in your life. That's what I would say. And she would be angry for sure. Sakurai heaved a number of signs before dropping a bomb out of nowhere.
だったらもっとそれらしいところを見せればいいの？キスとか抱き合うとか、なんだったらその先も。見たいの、そんなのが。綾瀬さん。
What a pervert, right? Oh, Kasumi, you sure are perverted. Kasumi shrank like a sparrow on a winter night, trembling from head to toe. What? No point looking at me. There wouldn't be much I could do. I can't begin to feel sorry for her, but I had to keep up the act.
見ててね。
Sakurai boldly walked past Kasumi, drawing closer to me.
藤井君、動かないでね。
But I want to move. She wrapped her arms around my neck, put her away from me, drew her face closer and closer to mine.
わかりました、ごめんなさい、すみません。
And she broke. And Kasumi raised her hands when our lips were barely a few centimeters away.
もういいから、わかったから。疑ってないから、その辺で。
あら、見ていかないの？
見るも何も、人前でそういうことしちゃ。
Yeah, that's true.
じゃあ出てってくれる？私は続きがしたいから。
でも。
What, you want to watch after all?
おい
No longer able to watch Kasumi like that, I pushed Sakurai away.
悪ふざけが過ぎるぞお前
だって、もともとあなたが言い出したんでしょ？
そりゃ自覚してるけどな
I feel like we'd gone too far. Feeling like complete shit, I stole a quick glance at the flustered Kasumi.
悪いけど隣の部屋に行っててくれるか俺はこいつと話があるから
Discuss. Discuss.
心配しなくても別に変なことしねえから本当に話すだけ
Probably. We'll see about that yet.
わかった。ごめんね、桜井さんも。
Hi.
あ
Without a certain mechanical stiffness in her behavior, Kasumi hurriedly left the room as if fleeing. Oh man.
何か私に言うことは？
Not really. Why would I?
ねえよ
Should we continue? The gratitude I felt towards her had just been all cancelled out by that response.
勝手ね、あなた。まあ、私の周りはそんな男ばっかりだけど。
あんな奴らと一緒にするなよ
Either way, I finally managed to secure some time with Sakura in private. Because to be taken care of, it was now my chance to clear things up with this girl.
何か飲むか
I made the solution to change the mood and calm things down first. I didn't know what alcohol tasted like, and this wasn't it. Yeah, thanks for mentioning alcohol just in that episode. Game, really appreciate it. And this wasn't the time to be getting... This wasn't the time to be getting drunk, yeah. But when I considered our relationship, I figured we'd need something to liven things up. Also, well, it was only a guess. I suspected that alcohol wouldn't have had much of an effect on me now, given my current body. Well, Polish body means resistance, I know. Sakurai soundly held out her hand, so I grabbed a random bottle of whiskey or something like irae and tossed it to her.
ついではくれないのね。
そういう仲でもないだろ
Sakurai shrugged and opened the bottle. I thought about passing her a glass, but then she up and drank half of the whiskey straight out the bottle.
はい。何よ。恥ずかしがるような柄でもないでしょ。
そんなんじゃねえよ
I was just surprised that she also did things occasionally that didn't match her looks. Feeling unable to back out then, I took the bottle from Sakurai and proceeded to drink the remaining half straight out of the bottle.
おいしい？
クソまずい
How dare you?
ええ、私も同感。
Oh, I understand. So the problem is I don't know. Wait, I don't even remember what I said previously when that was going on in the irae in the first playthrough, to be honest. For starters, my theory turned out to be correct. Not even crazy drinking stunts like that seem to affect my body in the slightest.
お酒も、タバコも、麻薬も毒も、全部分解されるわよ。まあ慣れれば、抵抗力を抑えて無理やり酔うこともできるみたいだけど。そういうことを好んでやるのはベイくらいね。参考になった？
別に
I wasn't planning to stay like this forever. I wouldn't mind being immune to alcohol and smoking, but I didn't consider having omnipotent body functions useful either, just sickening. Well, the taste of the whiskey alone made it worth drinking. The terrible taste jolted my sense awake, helping me forget this damn rom-com of a farce I'd been trapped in.
座れよ桜井
And me? Whom? No. God damn it. I gestured towards the sofa. Sakurai nodded and sat down, and I followed suit by taking a seat on the opposite side, facing her. It was a whole day later than I'd been hoping, but now my nursing of Sakurai was about to pay off.
どういう心境の変化か知らないけど俺のバカな嘘に付き合ってくれる気になったのはなんでだ
状況が変わったのよ。私は早く戻らないといけない。
Sakurai answered me in blunt, emotionless tone.
力ずくっていうのも賢くないしね。ここはもう場として機能しないから、あなたと争っても仕方がない。質疑応答で型がつくなら、さっさと済ませて帰りたいの。
俺がおとなしくお前を返すって保証はないだろう。
あるわよ。ここには綾瀬さんがいるし。あの子の前で、むやみに暴れたりはできないでしょ。短い付き合いだけど、あなたのそういうところは分かっているし。
だったら
In that case, she didn't even need to answer my questions. If her theory was correct, I had no way of stopping her, especially with Shiro and Honjo gone. I decided not to voice that for now.
状況が変わったっていうのは
分かってるでしょ。遊園地よ。あんな真似ができるのは一人しかいない。広範囲を壊すのが私たちにできないわけじゃないけど、その手段がオンリーワン。
Someone powerful enough to turn that amusement park into living hell. It was kinda similar to what Sakurai could do, just on a whole other scale.
お前の親戚じゃないだろうな。
違うわよ。恐れ多くてそんなこと言えないわ。
I tried being sarcastic, but she gave me a serious answer. Her tone made me believe the person in question was someone above her in terms of rank. Despite being a relative newcomer among those monsters, she didn't hesitate to address Bei or Rusalka in a casual manner, but when it came to this other person, I could feel reverence and courtesy in her tone. My hunch was likely correct. The one that caused the explosion was
エレオノーレ・フォン・ビッテンブルグ。ザミエル卿ね。私は面識がないけれど、聞く限り怖い人よ。ハイドリヒ卿のコノエと言ったらいいかしら。
No, that sounds interesting.
だから、私は一刻も早く戻りたい。彼女が帰ってきた以上、半端なことをしていると何をされるかわからないの。正直それだけは避けたいし。質問は、これで終わり？
いや。
If anything, this was but an appetizer before the real deal. Well, it turned out to be a lot more dire than I expected, but I still had something else I wanted to know first.
スワスチか。
The 8 battlegrounds set up in the town. Wait a second, 1, 2. I need to know their locations and the order they were planning to approach them. She probably wouldn't tell me about the latter, but I had to pry the former out of her no matter what.
今開いているのは4つか。
ええ。
それはどこに？
博物館、公園、遊園地、そしてここ。全部心当たりはあるでしょ？
ああ。
There was Mars Guillotine in the museum, and I followed Spinne at the park. In the park. The museum was completely decimated last night, and the club, well, I was here myself.
普通、スワスチカが開いた場所は、まっとうな神経の持ち主なら立ち入れないくらい汚染されるものなんだけど、ここはホールに集中したから、それ以外は無事のようね。綾瀬さん。
そんなことは分かってる。
Hope you read it. It kind of pissed me off that she, the main culprit responsible for making our hall like that, was so casually warning me about its dangers, but I managed to contain myself. However, there was one thing that kept bugging me.
あなたが知りたいのは、残りすべての場所でしょ？
No! Why would you think that? But because the crab beat me to the punch, I lost my opportunity to ask. I said I would just have to ask her later, then considered any remaining places that seemed clearly fishy.
うちの一つは学校だろ。お前とルサルカが何の目的もなく転校してきたわけはない。
Rusaka even said so herself, not to mention.
前にアースがどうこう言ってたしな。
A place that could disperse the calamitous outbursts of Ahnanerbe, probably something akin to a field that effectively ate up the souls reaped by them.
ええ、ご名答よ。
Thank you.
その通り。
なら結局。
Their true intention was probably to massacre the school students and teachers, so that was what Rusalka meant when she said that all I had to do was be there.
スワズ地下を開くのは戦場。武器も繊維もない普通人を捧げたところで、そう簡単には開かないし、何百人も使って無理やりこじ開けても、霊格的には落ちるでしょ。だから、私たちには戦いがいるの。あなたという敵がいて、そこに巻き込まれる人がいて、大量の血と魂が懺悔すれば、そこは戦場跡として法人と化す。と言っても、それが最良というだけで、あなたがいなければどうにもならないわけじゃない。戦場予定地に敵がいなければ民間人を。それさえいないのなら、仲間同士で、結局スワスチカはこじ開ける。多少霊格が落ちようが、すべてそうでもない限り許容範囲。副首領閣下の術に穴はなく。と言っても、それが最良というだけで、あなたがいなければどうにもならないわけじゃない。
俺に選択の余地はないってことか。
そういうこと。
If I fought them, I risked opening swastikas myself, or if I let them alone, they'd just massacre innocents. It probably went without saying at this point that gathering several of them in one place and defeating them would be quite a Herculean task. I couldn't challenge Sakurai right then and there with Kasumi nearby, and I was totally out of options, which meant my only option was to accept said Herculean task and try to beat several of them at the same place. Thankfully, they closed the school the other day, and that should reduce civilian casualties. At least that's what I wanted to believe, but
他の場所は
Separately suppressing my words, I voiced another question.
教会、タワー、それから病院。うち二つは、至極簡単に開けるわね。あなたがいてもいなくても、あそこは人がとても多い。
She was right. The tower, much like the amusement park, was a hot tourist attraction. Well, the hospital had tons of patients.
私が、こんなことをベラベラと喋る理由は分かってるのよね。
ああ。
Since having an enemy to fight was better than slaughtering civilians, telling me this would increase my chance of showing up in those places. In other words, she was only leaking information for her gross benefit, and for I knew that all I could do was play right into their hands.
副首領閣下の性格の悪さには、私もつくづく感心するけど。まるで、どっちが鬼かわからない鬼ごっこね。自分を捕まえ、 屈服させてみせろ。あなたは追われながら追わなければいけない。と、これくらいでやめておきましょうか。
Probably realizing that my self-control might not hold if she continued further, Sakura relaxed and gave me a civil smile.
あなたの性格はだいぶ分かってきたし、ここでやり合うつもりもないから。話は終わったみたいだし、帰っていい？
いや。
There was still stuff I want to know, and I would have been annoyed to let things end at her pace. Above all else. So I asked one of the questions I put on hold earlier.
博物館はなんで開いた？
The Guillotine was at the museum, so maybe the dozen or so souls Kasumi reaped were gathered there, but that didn't sound nearly enough. Sakura told me that Kasumi was the executioner or something, so I thought that I accidentally absorbed those souls together with Mari, but that didn't seem to be the case. Now that I was beginning to get used to my power, I knew that Mari was the only soul within that guillotine. According to Mercurius, she was superior to all of those freaks. So these souls Kasumi reaped either went to the museum or somewhere else. Either way, they didn't open any swastikas. They certainly managed to awaken me to my power, but they wouldn't have been enough to fuel a spiritual explosion strong enough to open a swastika. But just whose soul was it that turned the museum into a swastika? I wondered if something like that could become a hint to how I should solve this mystery, but all Sakura did was frown and make a clearly displeased face.
それは大事な問題なの？
大事じゃないなら隠さず話せよ。
Her face then grew even more sullen. She must have been hiding something that was best kept hidden from me.
別に、大したあそこで昔、仲間の一人が死んだのよ。ただそれだけ。
I think I know who.
死んだ？
I'd already more or less identified the Obsidian Round Table's members by that point. I could feel pieces in my mind fitting together. A member who was already dead, someone who Sakura was reluctant to comment on. In other words, it was
ベアトリス・キルヒアイゼン。
spot on. Sakura's eyes widened just as I said the name.
なんで、その名を。
Well,
本庄が調べたんだよ。
I didn't give her more details, but we'd already learned that this Kirihaizen of theirs had already passed away.
そいつ、お前の前任なんだろ？
そうだけど。
どんなやつだった？
そんなことを聞いてどうするのよ。
興味があるんだ。
I didn't mean anything by it, but Sakurai ended up momentarily lost for words. She made a troubled face and folded it up with a glare before ultimately heaving a deep sigh.
別に、どうと言われてもね。おかしな人だったわよ。
You're a strange one as well.
名前でわかると思うけど、女性で。
Wow, you don't say.
私やマレウスとは全然違うタイプの人で。ああ、強いて言うなら、綾瀬さんと似ていたかも。
は？
Huh? This time, it was my eyes that widened in surprise. There was someone like Kasumi among them? That was one lousy joke I refused to buy.
だから言ったでしょ。おかしな人だったって。
She curled her lips into a somewhat forlorn smile, her eyes growing distant.
若いのよ。いつまでも年を取らないというか、そんな感じで。男の人ならたまにいるみたいだけど、子供のまま大きくなったような、そんな人。
So, she was just a fool then? The words almost slipped my lips, but I bit them down at the last second. I got a feeling there would have been trouble if she heard that.
お前はそいつのことが好きだったわけだ。
まさか、嫌いよあんな人。いつも私のことを子供扱いして。あなたにわかる？子供から子供って言われる気持ちが。
いやまあ、そりゃ。
The hell was I supposed to understand? We must have all looked like children to those 70 or 80-year-old geezers anyway.
だいたいお前、誰にでも嫌い嫌い言ってそうだし。
大きなお世話よ。それに、もしそうだとしても、本当に嫌いな相手には嫌いって言うしかないんだから。勘違いしないで。私は、あなたが嫌いなの。
Thanks.
ああ、そりゃ別にいいけど。
Now that I thought about it, I sure as hell had a proper reason to despise her, but what did I do to earn so much of her hate?
そういうことで、私今度こそ帰るわよ。
待てって、まだだ。
I grasped Sakurai's arm as she tried to stand up.
本当にしつこい。
Thanks.
そんなうんざり言われても、俺も好きでやってんじゃない。
だったら、あと一体いくつよ。
At least 50.
2つだ。
Say more. After that volatile exchange, Sakurai hastily urged him to continue with an annoyed jerk of her chin.
氷室先輩は何者だ。勘だが、あの人はお前らの仲間じゃない。かといって無関係でもない。
In other words, I didn't know what her role was. She was a gloomy shut-in with trouble reflexes, so I felt it unlikely that she'd be a fighter who could kill people with ease. But in that case, what kind of position was she in? This was also my intuition talking, but I felt that mystery was the most important of them all. What was Himura, and what was she hiding behind that impassive shell of hers?
俺はあの人が全て計算づくで動いてたとは思えないんだ。
仲が良かったの？
ああ。少なくとも俺はそう思ってる。
Even those psychos couldn't tell who I was when they first met me, so I highly doubted Himura could have already been targeting me when she became a friend over a year ago.
それは大事なことなのかしら。
大事だよ。お前にはわからないのか。
分かってないのはあなたよ。
Sakurai waved me off, seemingly exasperated.
誰だって優先順位がある。父親と母親のどちらかが死んで、どちらかが助かるとしたら、みんなより大事な方を選ぶでしょ。兄弟でも友達でも恋人でもそう。みんな大事。みんな一緒。誰も話したくない、選びたくない。そんな綺麗事、通用しないわ。あなたは彼女と友達だったのかもしれない。要するに切られたのよ。シスターだってそれは同じ。藤井君と仲良く青春してるよりもっと大事でやりたいことがあったんじゃない？
I was about to speak, but chose not to. I couldn't say it. True, I understood her logic, but then what was that more important thing anyway?
分かり合えないわよ。無駄ね。
Sakurai looked away.
あなたとこういう話をしてると、私はとてもイライラする。言ってもどうせ分かってなんかくれないし、分かってもらおうとも思わないし。だから、氷室先輩が何者かなんて、あなたが知ってもしょうがない。
How do you know that?
あなたは、知ったところで何もできない。
Well, you don't know that.
お前な。
I irritated her harsh way of speaking and was about to grab her by the shoulder. But then she suddenly clenched her stomach and squatted down.
おい、どうした？
Again?
でもない。ほっといて。
ほっとけって、お前。
That pain sure as hell wasn't normal. Had her symptoms from the night before came back with a vengeance.
いいわよ、別に。二度も助けてなんかくれなくても。
Let's do it again.
あなた、なんか、これ以上触られたくない。
It's too late. Then what the hell was I supposed to do? She was right that I had no obligation to help her fight, and we had just been having an argument, but I couldn't just leave her to die. So regardless of the circumstances, I had to lie her down, make sure she got some rest.
触られたくないのは分かったけど、ちょっとだけ我慢しろ。
I said with discouraged voice, then lifted Sakurai up so I could carry her over to the sofa. Thank you.
バカね、ほんと。甘いわよ、藤井君。
Yeah, I know where this is going.
私、あなたのそういうところが。
It seemed that strength had completely left her. She fell on me with all her wave.
大嫌い。
Thanks. And boom, that. Something crashed to my neck and I felt the lights of the room dim.
ごめんなさい。でもあなたが迂闊なのよ。女はあまり信用するなって、私もベアトリスに言われたわ。
Yep, never trust a woman. I couldn't open my eyes. I was losing consciousness. It appeared I'd completely let my guard down, leaving me totally susceptible to such a blow. Damn you, Sakurai!
言ったでしょ。私は早く帰らないといけないの。
No, you have not.
それに、氷室先輩のことをあなたに話すわけにはいかない。だって彼女は。
She's? As my consciousness faded, I saw Sakurai give a self-mocking smirk and turned around to leave the room. I shouldn't have let her go. I still had questions. What was so special about Himura? Why couldn't she tell me about her? We'll find out at some point. Unable to raise my voice and having me totally duped, I ultimately lost consciousness. And... Do we want me to be here now or not? Now that is the good question. From one point we could end the episode, from the other it might end in 5 seconds. Alright, let's continue with the church stuff. It hurt so much. Her whole body creaked in one agonizing wail. She couldn't move, she couldn't speak. Ever since yesterday, to be more precise, the rainy night from a few days ago, her path began to gradually change. As if she was turning to solid matter, like there was a volatile lurking beneath her skin. Even her own head, her memories and thoughts were being violated, overwritten by incomprehensible pictograms and symbols. The dread of being dropped of humanity, of turning into a cog in some larger mechanism. Unable to stand more, she pressed her back against the wall and slid downwards. She didn't need to wonder what was going on, or what had drained her to such an extent. She knew the answer. They opened 2 of those things in a single night, and it overwhelmed her to an alarming degree. One could liken it to a regular-sized car abruptly turning to a massive 10-ton truck, and to turn the handle or push the brakes. These new heavy gears and clutches were simply too much for her meager strength. There was no a hint of care for the driver in this whole ordeal. It resembled a forced chicken race towards a cliff. All fine and good as long as she reached the destination line, as far as they were concerned. All she could feel was cold, ruthless obsession with a single goal from whoever had forced this upon her. The sudden, harrowing change in approach, as well as the power that made a part of the town run just like that. As for who was responsible, she had a guess. It was the man that closely flung her side could guess just as well. And as proof of that, while he was characteristically rough in his demeanor, he didn't forget to hold back when he brushed her out of his way. He understood that the guy might break and shatter from the slightest of shocks. Despite being a man whose dictionary outright lacked the word empathy, he managed to contain his violent nature. As Rahimur fell to her knees and lost consciousness, Wilhelm Ehrenburg left the church, the knowledge of the current state of events burning a hole in his chest.
Yo! ちょっといいかよ、クリストフ。
The sun had already set, and the vicinity had been shrouded by a veil of impenetrable darkness. For someone like him, a creature of the night, the sign of the beginning of the day, he shot an nice glare at the three of us back. The priest appeared to have ignored him altogether.
ザミエルはどこだ？なぜ俺らに何も言わねえ？
He went straight to the point without a shred of subtlety in his tone. It was just like him to be so brash. Unable to contain a chuckle, the priest's shoulders began to quiver.
お前、俺をアホかなんかと思ってねえか？あれだけ癖の強い魂が落ちてくりゃ、どんな間抜けでも気づくんだよ。それに、消えたもう一つもな。バビロンが死んだんだろ。いや。
ええ。彼女は処刑されましたよ。ザミエル教にね。
He realized he couldn't hide it, or maybe he wasn't planning to begin with, but the priest confirmed Wilhelm's words in a single breath.
遊園地を、いいえ、その周辺一帯に至るまで丸ごと灼熱させ燃やし尽くす。そんなことができるものなど彼女しかいませんからね。さすが。
おお。じゃあお前、一応とぼけようとは思ってたわけだ。
まあ、上官命令でしたので。
Riva shrugged his shoulders as if trying to express how burdensome it all was to him.
ベイ、あなたはこれでなかなか里い男です。 鼻が利くというか、ともかく一種の勘が鋭い。故に下手な隠し立ては無駄と考え、洗いざらい喋りますが、確かにザミエル卿は帰還しておられる。だが、ではどこにいると問われても答えられない。なぜなら、
まだ体を維持できねえっていうわけか。
ええ。彼女は矜持が高く、完全主義者だ。不完全な状態で皆と会うのが嫌なのでしょうね。そのあたりの意を組んで、察してやるのも必要かと。
Wilhelm let out a snort, breaking his gaze from the priest's back. He instead fixed his eyes on the darkness blanketing the sky.
規律第一、完璧主義者の軍人女が、わざわざ不完全な形で戻ってきてまで仲間殺しかよ。随分と支離滅裂な矛盾じゃねえか。
女性の心理が不可思議なのは、古今東西の共通でしょう。我々男が理屈で考えようとしたところでせんないもの。それに、矛盾が矛盾でなくなる魔法の存在、あなたも知っているのでは？
True.
ハイドリヒ教の命令か？確かにあの人がやるって言や何でもやるのがあの女だ。ああ、それは分かってるがよ。だったらなぜバビロンは消されたんだ？あいつが何か、そうされざるを得ないヘマでもやったってのかよ。
ほう。あなたがそこまで仲間思いだったとは知らなかった。彼女の死を承服できないとおっしゃるのですか？
そうじゃねえさ。よくわかんねえ理由で俺までやられちゃたまんねえしな。だから、そのあたりははっきりさせときたいんだよ。クリストフ、あいつは一体何をやった？
Three-four up his chin in an exaggerated motion, delaying the answer. Eventually, others would come like a teacher with a problematic child in a placid tone.
やったというよりやりかねないと言った方が正しいのでしょうね。この場合。
あ？
彼女は増年金斗と深い縁だ。加えて女、母でもある。その思考は複雑回帰どころではない。土壇場で裏切らないと一体誰が保証できます？
カインも持ってやがるしか。
ええ。用が済めば除いておくのが賢明であろうと、ハイドリヒ教に副首領閣下やザミエル教、そして私。この
なるほど。
He gave the priest an understanding nod, and yet fixed his murderer's gaze on his back again.
だが、増年金斗と縁が深いのは誰かさんも同じじゃねえのか、クリストフ。加えていや、神父で親父と来たもんだ。俺に言わせりゃ、お前も十分複雑回帰なんだがよ。
これは。
シュピーネ、バビロン。どうもお前に近い奴らから消えていってることも釈然としねえ。ついでに一つ答えろや。お前はシュピーネに一体何を調べさせてた？気になるな。おい、気になるぜ。まるで口封じしたみてえじゃねえか。そう思うだろ？
シュピーネを倒したのは藤井さん。サラトゥストラであり、私ではないのですがね。
あのガキに真っ先でシュピーネをぶつけたのはお前だろ。
確かにそれは否定しようもありませんが。
The priest smiled at Wilhelm behind his back, who seemed similarly amused.
洗いざらい喋るんじゃなかったのかい、クリストフ。つっても別にお前の生い立ちだの食ってきた女の数だのそんなことは聞いてね。
いいでしょう。シュピーネの件でしたね。
Srifa slightly fixed his glasses as the nightly moon made his golden mane dance and hide his expression. It seemed to cast a strange shadow on his face, making the priest seem like an entirely different man.
バビロン。リザの息子のことはあなたも覚えているでしょう。
ああ、それが
The first of the Zonan kings. It was his birth that made this day possible to begin with.
性質。スワスチカという都市規模の生物を起動させるための核。よりしろ。あれを生むことがレーベンスボルン機関の、そう。言うなれば裏の悲願だ。リザは見事にそれを果たした。当時はまだ不完全であったとはいえ。少なくともあのベルリン崩壊の日、ハイドリヒ教並びに大隊長の方々を城へ飛ばし、完全なる増年キントとスワスチカ、それに副首領閣下の大隊が機能するまでの実験措置、性質創造の思考を図るという意味において、初代は役に立ちましたよ。あくまで思考であったがゆえに死なずに済んだわけですしね。だがこう考えたことはないですか。もしもあの時彼が死んでいたらどうなっていたのかと。
どうってそりゃ
For a moment, Wilhelm felt completely motionless, but after a few seconds of thought, he burst into a volley of uncontained cackling.
なるほど。なるほど、そういうことかよ。俺らは本当に間抜けだな、クリストフ。
恥じることはありません。これは我々全員に共通する欠点だ。
Having achieved incredible powers and exposed to one that was even beyond them in its magnificence on a daily basis, they could easily fail to take notice of a tiny, seemingly inconsequential pitfall. The word of the beast was their law. If he said the boy wouldn't die, they would believe it without a shred of doubt. They wouldn't even entertain the possibility of him perishing.
あの時初代が死んでいたら、当然2世も3世も生まれることなく、全てがご破産になっていた。なぜそんなことにも気づかないのでしょうね。我々は結果的に死ななかったから今があり、その点でハイドリヒ教と副首領閣下はやはり絶対的である。勝利万歳ともろ手を挙げるのはまた次元の違う話でしょう。それ問題はあの時あらゆる計画が頓挫する可能性があったということ。そして本当に誰もそのことに気づいていなかったのかということ。シュピーネ、バビロン、彼らは臆病で心脆弱な凡人ですが、ある意味で我々より数段優れていましたよ。米中尉。リザの子供は双子であり、うち一方は死んだと聞く。私がシュピーネに調べさせたのは、つまりそういうことなのです。本当に死んだのか。墓はどこに。遺骨があるなら DNA は。もし生きていたと仮定するなら、彼とその子孫は一体どこに。今何を。
Interesting.
サラトゥストラ覚醒に使われた殺し役。あれは本当にたまたま偶然選ばれたのか。副首領閣下の砲術で編まれたこのシャンバラがそんなザル的人選を行うのか。いやいや、だからこそ読みづらいということもあり得る。しかしとは。
ああ、わかった。もういいぜ。
Wilhelm cut off the priest with a wave of the hand that looked both depressed and pleased.
理解したって言ったろ。これ以上てめえの間抜けさ加減を自覚してもしゃあねえわな。ただクリストフ、今の話でふと思ったんだが、てめえは本当に最近までそれに気づいてなかったのかい？俺の感じはおそらくだが。
A few seconds passed as their stares intertwined, after which the priest put on a sudden bitter smile.
私のことなどよりリザの名誉のために言っておきましょう。彼女はおそらく生き別れた皇帝のいい代替品などとは考えていなかったはず。 あくまで推論の領域ですが、どこか自分も知らない遠い地で普通に幸せを得てほしいと、そう願っていたのではあるまいか。そしてならばこそ、そうした母の愛までもが副首領閣下に絡め取られ、このシャンバラに引き寄せられていたなどと、彼女は知らぬ方が良いのですよ。
母ねえ。
Wilhelm let out a cynical snort as Strifa considered him with the smile of a loving father.
あなたとて母子はおられたでしょう、米中尉。もはや思い出しもしませんか。
どうかね。俺はクソダメに生まれたような身だからよ、そういうのはわかんねえ。とにかくお前さんのやってることはなんとなくだがわかったよ。ま、せいぜい好きにしろや。スワスチカが問題なく動くってなら、核がなんだろうと俺には特に関係ねえ。そこら辺はハイドリ秘境だって同じだろうよ。それで大行殿、次は何を悪だくらんでる。
Wilhelm considered the priest with the eyes of a naughty brat. He himself could very well guess what the priest had set his eyes on next.
月の沢学園、次はあの地のスワスチカを開きなさい。それが戦争だろうと虐殺だろうと、あそこならどう転んでも可能でしょう。カインはマレウスに預けましたし、今頃彼女が下準備をしているはずだ。
了解と言いてえが、一つだけ問題がある。
何か？
レオンだよ。俺はあいつにあそこで暴れんなと釘を刺されているんでな。
これはまた、あなたがそのようなことを気にする性格でしたかな。
いや、だけどな。
He shook his head with a grin and heaved a deep sigh in mock distress.
あいつは若えし、ガキな上に、あんたに言わせりゃ複雑回帰な女なんだよ。持ち場離れて遊んでる方が悪いだろとか、そういう真っ当な理屈が通用するとも思えねえ。なあ、どうすりゃいいかな、クリストフ。もしもあいつが俺に喧嘩売ってきやがった場合はよ。
A simple question, and the far stood the true, knowing full well what the others would say, the two desperately recounting their lives as if from a prepared script.
私は言いました。それが戦争であろうと虐殺であろうと。
誰が死のうと、誰がやり合おうと、
要はスワスチカが開けばよい。
そして、それこそがハイドリヒ教への忠誠である。
しかり。エイメン。
And with that, their conversation drew to an end. Nope.
容赦ねえな。あんた血も涙もねえのかよ、神父様。あいつは弟子みてえなもんなんだろうが。
ええ、それだけにとても悲しい。さっさと戻ってくればよかったものを、フラフラしているからこんなことになる。
じゃあこれでまたあんたに近いやつから死んじまうことになるな。
そのようですね。おそらくこれが私の業でしょう。拭いがたいのはあなたと同じだ。
違いねえ。
With the hint of a laugh still lingering on his lips, Wilhelm walked past the priest and melted into darkness. His destination hardly in attention, he would head for his next battlefield, the site of his next massacre. The night would see the arrival of a vampire lasting for blood.
だが、しかしいいのかい。あんたの大事なお嬢ちゃんは今にも死にそうなくらい下手ってたぜ。また間髪入れずに開いた日にゃ。
それは問題ありません。一夜のうちに連続解放などするから無理が来る。今夜一晩時間を置けば負荷もさほどではありますまい。それにそもそも
代わりもいるしか。はあ、確かにバビロンが死んでよかったな。あいつがいたらあんた今頃刺されてるぜ。
それも一興。そのように私は思っていましたよ。
Wilhelm couldn't contain a jubilant shriek.
了 了解了解。それならお優しいあんたのために俺が代わりをさらっといてやろうじゃねえか。それにレオンのことも手加減しねえぞ。知ってるだろうが、俺はあいつが仲間だなんてかけらも思っちゃいねえからよ。
Three flowers for the pale man with troubled smile.
まあ、あくまで敵対したらという過程の話であることを忘れずに。
するさ。いや、させてやる。バルキュリアはいい女だったが、あいつはクソだ。認めねえ。
Wilhelm completely vanished into darkness, leaving only an echo of his cackle behind him. After confirming that Wilhelm was no longer within hearing distance.
私にとって近しいものから死んでいく。ああ、確かにその通り。であれば今この時、最も私に踏み込んだのが誰なのか、そこに思い至らないのがあなたたちの欠点なのです。とはいえ。
He opened the doors to the church and picked the crumpled tray up in his embrace.
彼女の代わりを確保すると、その申し出には感謝しましょう。テレジア、あなたの寝顔をこうしてみるのも今夜が最後になるかもしれない。何も知らず、何も分からず、何も悔いることなく眠りなさい。明日が終わればあなたの役目は別のものに委任される。
A single tear trickled down the cheek of the girl, still tense and rigid with pain. Alright. No, this is no. Alright, no. You know, I like the story continues and so on, but I have to end the episode here, okay? I actually plan to prepare something aside this area as well. Well, you'll probably see if I won't fall asleep somehow in a few minutes. Anyway, for now, hope you enjoyed this episode over a long hour long, and see you tomorrow in the next one. So yeah, bye bye.